Yo, what's up, y'all? It's Zems, and welcome to another reaction video.
Brother, what's that?
Today we're going to react to the Japanese Voldemort Man with 11 Wives. This video is by Stephanie So if you guys haven't already, make sure you swoop down that description box, comment on the link, go watch this video in entirety, because I'm going to be pausing, stopping, and talking through the whole thing. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Zems, and welcome to the Crow's Nest.
I have so many questions. I went down a freaking rabbit hole on this picture. This is the picture. I've already shown my husband this picture like 25 million times. The guy with the 7 tattoo, and he looks literally like a demon. Yes. Is that a 7 tattoo on his forehead? Is it a carving?
It's an L.
Is it some sort of symbolism?
Waluigi.
What does the 7 mean? Is he just the hardest army out there, or is this some sort of gang sign? How was I supposed to know? Was he just like a hardcore Jungkook fan? And he was like, the next one is going to be 3D.
Oh, that's good.
Why does he resemble Voldemort?
Who is he?
I'm about to go down the rabbit hole of who this man is, because it is not what I was expecting. I was expecting maybe some sort of celebrity that lost their marbles. Maybe some sort of criminal, a gang, like one of those, you know what I mean, shady activities.
He looks like a cult leader more than anything.
Yeah, a cult leader.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The 7 looked like some sort of weird symbolism for some that was going to go down. The apocalypse is going to be in 2027. The picture was ironically taken February 7th, 2023.
Oh, last year.
Yeah. It went viral in Japan without any context, and netizens were really looking into what the 7 meant. People were thinking maybe it's a different language, and of all the potential answers that would have been a lot more digestible, made a lot more sense, none of them are true. The real story is even weirder. This man is known in Japan as the harem man. He is a man with 11 wives and 12 cats. He's also a fortune teller.
11 wives and 12
Yeah,
cats.
that's 10 more than me.
Do you feel like you need to catch up or something?
Dang.
And his wives, they would read you your fortune. And it starts off, like you could go to his house and get a fortune read for you. And it starts off pretty normal until he would have these very dark visions that if his clients didn't sleep with him, marry him, join his family to be his 12th wife, their skin would melt off. They would be abducted by UFOs. Their aliens would come down and impregnate every member of their family.
That doesn't make any sense.
And dismember them. Their bodies would be ground into pork while they were still alive. So let's get in to the very unhinged story that is Hirohito Shibuya. There was a girl named Alice, and she was going in for a job interview at a fortune teller's house. The job listing was for the fortune teller's assistant. The pay is decent, and she's thinking, you know what? This is better than like one of those receptionist jobs, like a dentist office. This is better than one of those, you know, assistant jobs to a random person.
And this is in Japan.
In Japan, yeah. Okay. Like near Tokyo, outside of Tokyo, the suburbs of Tokyo. And she sends in her resume, gets a call to come in later that week for an interview. She puts on her best bangin' pantsuit, practices all of her little interview questions. She's nervous, she's sweating. She shows up at the house. It's called the Hero House. It's a play on words because his name is Hirohito, but also English hero, like you're a hero. Yeah. Hero House fortune telling. And she feels like the minute that she steps in through that front door, she has entered into some sort of parallel universe Twilight Zone. The moment that she steps foot in this house, it's uncanny. There were a ton of women in there, 11 women to be exact, all dressed in uniform, just standing there. I mean, imagine walking into a 2,000 square foot home. There's 11 women in uniform, and you're like, it's not that serious.
Did I tell you there's one time what I was invited to a birthday dinner?
Stop.
It was a girl.
Wait, what do you mean it was a girl?
This was like way back in the day.
What do you mean you arrived?
No.
Did you come to her house?
No, it was at a restaurant.
Oh, okay,
and she's Chinese, so she was having the dinner at those round table with the lady Susan in the middle. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
So I went with my friend, who's a guy. So we both went there, and there was a round table with like 25 guys and just her.
Shut up.
Yes.
Shut up right now. Honestly, she's kind of the goat for doing that.
And then we're all like come in like pairs or individuals, so nobody knows anybody. Nobody's in the same friend group.
She didn't invite a single girl?
Not a single girl, not a single group of friends. It was like 25 guys and her.
Wait, that's so good.
It was so weird.
That's crazy.
So I feel like I was in The Bachelorette.
Why? Did you like her?
No. She's like a few years older than me. She was like a Oni or something. But
An
I was
Anuna.
Anuna. I was sitting.
He's dodging the questions perfectly. Yo, he's getting hit with a barrage of traps and he's just jumping over traps like that. But that's crazy. If you come to think about it in the hero house, like, bro, if you have 11 wives, and I wonder if he's feeding them all the same story of kind of like, oh, if you don't work for me, your skin's going to fall off. And it's just kind of like have to realize, like, is this actually working, or they're just as crazy as he is, or they just thoroughly believe and like deep, like rooted into the faith that like, hey, if I don't listen to this guy, this is what's going to happen. Like 11 wives is insane. 11 wives and 12 cats. It's like a cat for each wife, because now he got like 13, I believe. I guess during this time he only had 11. But you have to have some type of riz to game up not 1, 2, but 11 or to 13 people to marry you. Like, that's insane. Like, how does that even work? Like, who gets what day? You know what I mean? You literally almost have a wife for every day of the week. Is insane, bro. That's like, I can't only imagine how the stress behind it. Like, dealing with one woman is like hard enough as it is. No offense, but it's just like it's so much, man. Like a 13, I couldn't do it, bro. There's not enough patience and financial to go around.
Yeah, I was just like looking at this, like, wow, this is fun.
Were the guys like trying to fight for her attention and everything?
Kind of. There's a lot of like talking on top of each other, and yeah, it was weird.
That's so good.
Yeah.
She really is the main character of her own birthday.
But my thinking afterwards is
Yes.
that I think there's a guy that she likes. There's one guy that sits next to her was her main target.
She's trying to make him jealous.
Maybe.
Wow, that's such
Yeah.
a fascinating idea.
I know.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm gonna do it, but with dogs. I'm gonna invite a bunch of dogs over, sit Mango and Tiger down, like, see, you've got it good. Do you know how many other dogs would want to be adopted by me? Okay, that's a little aggressive. Anyway, so there are a ton of women in there,
so
all
goofy.
dressed in uniform. I thought you were gonna say that you went to her house and there was like a full staff for her birthday, like dressed in uniform. I always see the reality shows where they do that, and I think it's so goofy. I don't know what it is.
No.
It's so goofy. So they're just standing there in uniform, like flight attendants, back straight, just like ushering her in. Imagine you walk through a pretty cramped foyer, and there's just 5 people lined up, like, right this way, right this way, right this way, ushering her through the front door into this room. The room is weird. It was Hawaii themed. It just threw her off, you know? And it wasn't just like, ooh, I wonder if this person likes Hawaii. I wonder if they went to Hawaii recently. It's like, no, this person Googled Hawaii and ordered all the, like, the first 5 pages of it.
Hawaii.
That's so weird.
Hawaii themed quilts on the wall. Hawaii magazines on the coffee table, everything. There was a little corner with banana trees. She's
That's
like,
not a usual fortune teller,
exactly.
right? It's like,
It's too happy. It's too beachy. Why are you doing that? Would you like a cup of tea while you wait? She's like, no, I'm good, thank you. She's sitting on the very edge of the couch trying to be polite, and she's trying not to noticeably glance around at the very bizarre room, and she's thinking, you know, maybe it's just the fortune teller's style. Then a woman in her 20s with long black hair comes to fetch her. If you'll follow me, he's ready for you in the other room. It's giving 50 Shades of Grey. It's giving very serious,
Shades
but it's
of
kind of
Grey.
goofy because it's, again, in someone's 2,000 square foot home, right? So she walks upstairs in a regular house, but like all these people are treating it like she's about to meet like the CEO of Delta. Follow me right this way. Alice is led up to the second floor to this pitch black room. The curtains are closed. The lights are off. Everything in there is pitch black, literally pitch black. She could not see a single thing in that room. It's 3 p.m. Why is the room so dark? Who does an interview in the pitch black like this? She's trying to squint so that she doesn't bump into anything or anyone. She could see from when they first opened the door that there was a desk and 2 chairs in the center of the room. And in one of those chairs was this man sitting on one side wearing a black cloak.
like Harry Potter.
Like Harry Potter with the hood on. So she assumes she's supposed to sit on the other side. She sits down on the chair. It's strange, but you know what? It's fortune telling. So maybe it's not the most conventional job interview.
If he turns around like one of those old time like evil villain movies with like the cat in his hand, he's like, you finally made it. And the cat's like in his hand, he's just like slowly petting the cat. And he's like, oh, yes, I sense that you want to work here. Like he just starts like spouting out stuff that he already knows. It's kind of like to paint himself like he knows it all. You know what I mean? Or he's just going to try to fish around and be like, oh, ha, I got her now. I knew I'll get her somewhere. And then he's just going to like get her into the palm of his hand and she's going to be eaten out of it. Or maybe she's just one of those people that just kind of like, I seen it. It was not for me. And I'm telling the story behind it. Or maybe she turns into one of his wives. We don't know.
It's fine. She sits down and there is an actual crystal glass ball on the table. And she's like, oh no, this is getting a little bit weird. A little bit too goofy. Hero, the fortune teller, turns on one single light and shines it dramatically into Alice's face. It almost blinded her. She said it's like being interrogated in a police interrogation room. She couldn't see anything outside of just anything in the room. She couldn't see it. She couldn't even see Hero because the light is shining at her. And then she hears his voice. These are the first words that he would speak. A very big misfortune is about to happen. You're going to be in big trouble. I'm actually here for the job interview, not for my fortune to be read. Very, very big misfortune indeed. Alice is confused, but also now she's kind of intrigued, or at least worried. She's like, what do you mean? Is something bad going to happen to my family? Like some sort of accident? Is everyone going to be okay? She keeps asking these questions about this insane, massive misfortune that he keeps alluding to, but he just gives her vague answers. Ghosts are attached to you. UFOs will come and snatch your loved ones. If you leave here today, you will be ground up like beef, and if you tell anyone any of this, you will be killed.
Yeah, because
at one point, Alice is like, I just can't do this. This is goofy. Like, this is a pile of BS. She stands up and says, if you're not going to interview me correctly, I'm leaving. She walks out of there so angry, but also, like, the longer that she's walking away from that house, the more creeped out she's feeling. Obviously, the fortunes are lies, right? What the fortune teller is telling her. It sounds like lies. But something about the whole experience, something about all the women, something about the house, the Hawaii room, the all black room. She's trying to like shake off this dirty feeling while she's walking away. But one thing's for sure, she would never be coming back to Hero House or the White Harem House. That's what the neighbors called it. This house is weird, the neighbors said. There was one day a neighbor was taking a long walk at night, clearing their head, when they saw that the lights were on inside of the White Harem House. I mean, obviously, the neighbors knew what was going on. Like, this man is living there alone with 11 wives, and sometimes they take these walks. They take walks around the neighborhood, and the wives are dressed to the nines, makeup done, hair done, mini skirts, fur coats, and they just walk in a line,
in a line?
In a line.
Wow. That's a
so
sight.
awkward.
That's a sight. So they're like, that's the harem house. Sometimes they pile up into a green minivan and they be buying groceries together, dressed to the nines. It's a freaking sight. They got 3 kids in there as well. 12 cats. Yeah, and 2,000 square feet is pretty big, but I don't know. 12 people, 12 cats, 3 kids. That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's like a small zoo.
And it's a business, right?
Yeah, yes.
And they're seeing people.
And they have a room just dedicated to cats. So they've got an all black room, a Hawaii themed room, and a cat room. So where do people sleep? Anyway, the neighbor is walking by at night and the curtains hadn't been drawn and the lights are on. So the neighbor could just like peek a little bit and they get full view into the house. And that's what they do. It looks like a seance is happening. Hero is in the center of the living room chanting something in front of a flickering candle, and the wives are standing around him in a circle and their bodies are swaying in unison, like left, right, left, right, left, right. And then they started violently shaking their heads, and they all have like long black hair it looked like they were being electrocuted. They looked possessed. And this lasted for over an hour.
You didn't catch it on
The
video?
neighbor probably stood there for like an hour, because I don't know how else they would know it lasted for an hour, right? They also had it was just so strange. All the neighbors just wanted to know, who the hell is this guy really? Because, like, we don't really know that much about him. We just know that he has 11 wives and 12 cats. Well, how did he get so many women to marry him? What the hell is going on in that house?
Wait, is it legally? No, right? It can't be.
He's not legally married to them.
But
So
that's what everybody assumes or claims.
Yes, but he was married to all of them. So what he would do is you'd be the new wife. He'd marry you, divorce you in like 9 days.
Wow.
But you would still change your last name. You would still live in the house.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So it felt like a little
Did you know
loophole.
there's a lot of different anime genres? I'm going to try to get into anime. It's like one of those things that's always on my to-do list. I'm like, get into anime.
I've been trying to tell people to get into anime. People are like, I don't like all that stuff. They be like all girly and weird. I'm telling you, all animes are not like that. Anime has so many different genres, bro. It's insane. If you want romance, they have like the little romance series. You want like horror. You want like true crime. You want like detective and all that other stuff. If you just want like a fairy tale or fantasy, bro, anime has it all. They have really, really good stories. Like you might find some animes. I've never found an anime to where I was like, this was trash. The whole anime was trash. I've never found an anime like that. Do they exist? Probably, but I've never seen an anime where it was like so bad to the point where it's just like, oh my God, this is trash. I gotta stop watching. I even finished it. Like it may not be my type or anything like that, but I've always finished them because they always have something good or they always have some kind of message in the story that you can kind of take with you in real life. And I feel like that's the way I view anime, but everybody's not the same. So I'll tell everybody to at least give it a chance and find an anime that probably fits your style or something that you're used to. Like I said, if you're into like true crime and like mysterious and thrillers and stuff like that, they have animes and stuff like that as well. So be open to it. It's not for everybody. Like I said, people just say they call them like cartoons, which is not cartoons, but people are going to call them cartoons because they look like cartoons.
She's so busy. She's booked and busy. So much going on. Okay. Anyway, one that I was not expecting in anime genres. There's harem anime.
Harem?
Yeah.
I've never
What's
seen
that?
that one.
It's one guy, like 20 girls. It's your friend's birthday dinner. Technically, some of the most famous animes have the harem trope, which is just one guy living with 10 wives, or sometimes it's not even that obvious. It's like one guy who has 10 high school girlfriends that are foaming at the mouth for him.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually not like super sexual or anything because
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like that word gives off that vibe like, oh, something weird is going on. But it's
Yeah.
generally just like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette type vibes. And a lot of the plot revolves around, ooh, who is this person going to pick? Are they going to pick anyone at all? Or are they all just going to live happily ever after together? Obviously, it's working. It's popular for a reason. And for 23 years, this man, Hiro, was known in Japan as the harem man. He was living his own real-life anime harem. But that's not the part that gets him arrested, okay?
He got
That's what I'm
arrested.
saying.
Oh, he gets arrested twice.
For what?
Yeah, he's crazy. He's a very interesting person. So people are trying to understand, what does this guy want with his life? Obviously, it's not a traditional relationship, but that's okay, right? The part that everyone has a problem with was how Hiro found wives and convinced them to marry him and move into his house with his other like 10, 11 wives. It all involves UFOs, aliens, human skinning, and murder. And it worked, for the most part. Now, this is fascinating, but Hiro said having a ton of wives was only awkward for the first 2-3 wives, you know? Because then it's like too little of a group. And there's jealousy. There's too much going on. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm
But
saying.
then when you hit like 5 wives, everybody's bonding. It's like a community. It's like your own little town.
So guys, just push through the discomfort. We'll all get to happiness eventually.
That's
And a lot of
crazy.
people were thinking, okay, well, the harem man must be rich.
That's what I thought.
Because to have a 3-story house outside of Tokyo, even though it's only like 2,000 square feet, in Tokyo standards, that's a mansion. That's a McMansion in the United States of America. So maybe, because Hiro is 50, most of his wives are in their 20s.
What?
And he's, for a 50-year-old, not conventionally attractive, I'm sorry. His wives, incredibly conventionally attractive from what the neighbors say, although most of them are anonymous right now. So it's very interesting. What do they see in this man? He's actually not rich at all. He wasn't working. The wives all worked. They did all the domestic chores, and they paid Hiro a small percentage of their earnings every single month so that he could buy science books because he loved science. And he would come home and read science books. This is so weird. It's so weird. Is it a cult? Is it money? Is it a sugar daddy? Is it a sugar baby?
That's what I'm saying. Like, what do you say to get people to do? I wouldn't want to do it, but it's just curious. Like, you can go back and look at like Charles Manson and all these other cult leaders. Like, what do you say to these people to make them think like, you know what? That makes sense. Let me marry this dude when he already has 6 other wives. And when I'm out working, he's going to be at home telling futures. And when I come home after got done working for the last week or 2 weeks, I'm going to give him half of my paycheck and still love him and share him with amongst other women. Like, you would think, like, if someone was telling you this, like, just imagine I walked up to you and told you this is what I'm doing. Like, oh, I have 11 wives. I don't work and they take care of me. People be like, yeah, right, bro. Shut up. Get out of here. You're delusional. You're crazy. Get out of my face. Like, this is some real shit, bro. Like, you can't make this up. Like, I can't even get one. Dude got 11, bro. I'm still not over that right now.
What's going on? It's just so confusing. None of this is making any sense.
At all.
And Hero said it was all inspired by Disney. Yep.
Snow White.
Disney. I genuinely have no idea what kind of Disney movies this man was watching.
Snow White.
Or is he just watching like X-rated Disney movies that are dressed up as Disney characters? Because he said as a kid, he would watch these Disney movies and he saw men surrounded by women and he wanted that for himself. He said he didn't want to be around other men. He said men were dumb and he had to be the only dumb one in a relationship for this to work. So it'd be him plus 10 women. That was his ideal life. Like, imagine asking a 10-year-old what they want to be when they grow up, and this is like the whole spiel they give you. They're like sitting you down. They're like, okay, so it's me and 12 hot baddies in one house. I'd be like, oh my goodness, I need a child psychologist. Stat, pronto. This is illegal. Okay? That's what he wanted when he's 10. He's like, that's what I'm going to be when I grow up. Just a big female family with a bunch of females. I could not for the life of me come up with a single Disney scene or a single Disney movie where there was one man surrounded by a bunch of women. The only thing I could think of was a reverse harem, which would be Snow White and the seven friends, you know? Let me know, because I'd be very intrigued if Disney had like a harem lifestyle bit in one of their movies. Anyway, the only problem though growing up, girls really didn't like Hero. He just wasn't popular, never did the cool things, he never played sports, he was really quiet, got bullied a lot, and the girls said actually he wasn't even just quiet, he was really creepy, so we would keep our distance from him. I don't know, the guy was weird. After graduating college, he meets a woman that is not creeped out by him. They end up getting married. And for a little while, they have this very traditional relationship. Nice, stable jobs, nice kid. I mean, they would bring that photo of the kid in their wallet and show it to practically every single human that they cross paths with and make them stare at pictures of their kid. Very traditional. I'm just kidding. I love parents who show me pictures of their kid. I think it's very cute. Don't show me pictures of your kid.
Enough, Andrew.
Enough, sister. That's enough. I know what they look like.
That one's Mia, right?
They actually lived really, really well off, though. So they end up moving to the outskirts of Tokyo into this big white-colored house. And it's 3 stories tall, 2,000 square feet. And like I said, it's really big. But it's so suspiciously big for a young family of 3 that a lot of the neighbors were kind of perplexed by it. Most of Tokyo people, they live in like 1,000 square feet or less for a full family. So this is huge. A lot of people question if Hiro already had plans to start a harem in that house later. So originally the neighbors really liked the couple, but then it started getting weird. Hiro was obsessed with America. He would walk around full cowboy attire, which you don't even see in America. And it was just so random. Or some days he would just cosplay an American soldier, which is a very questionable outfit in Japan, I imagine. You know what I mean? He would have drinks with neighbors in the yard and tell them very bizarre stories and lies about how the U.S. military loves his family. And they're like, what'd you say? Yeah. When we moved into the house, the U.S. military jet flew really low overhead to greet us and officially welcome us home. Again, not something I would probably say in Japan, right? And the neighbors, they knew that no U.S. military jet would do that. And if they did, they should all be on high alert. But then again, like, why would he lie about something like that?
Yeah, the same thing too. When I was over in Japan, like, they had a lot of people that did not want us there. And I understand it, like the stigma and the history behind it. But there was also a lot of people that kind of like forgave and kind of was like open to American. Some establishments, even though it was back in, I believe, 2023, and I got there in 2008. 2019 probably, but it was some still like some establishments that said no American. So part of it was because of like the stigma in the past. Part of it was because Americans come there and they cause trouble and then they break stuff and then they, you know what, this is it. I don't want no Americans in here. Or sometimes just because we don't speak the language and that can be irritating. You go to another country and we be like, oh, can you speak English? And then we try to force them to speak English in their country. You know what I mean? So part of that was the reason, and also I feel like it should be that same standard because it's like when people come here, oh, you should know English, or people be saying that. I don't say it, more than welcome to come and visit, but a lot of people be like, oh, if you're going to be in the United States, you got to speak English. Well, if you travel and you go to Korea, you better know how to speak at least some Korean, or at least try to order something in Korean to let them know that you're trying, you know what I mean? It should be reciprocated from both sides. But yeah, a lot of people protested outside like the military gates and stuff like that. A lot of people did not want us here. It was peaceful protest, like I'm glad they were able to like voice their opinion about how they feel. But it was still a lot of that over there. So it's just kind of like traveling is cool, but only thing I'll tell people, just make sure you do research on where you travel, because like me, I wouldn't be able to blend in. Like Germany, yeah, I could blend in. Europe is surrounded by all different places around there, but Japan is kind of like, you see a black person, you're kind of like, all right, either they was kind of like born here or they got to be attached to some kind of like government or something like that. People always thought I was like an English teacher, or they always assumed that I was in the military. Those was like the only two, because we're there learning English, you know what I mean? Or you're just there for college, which is like an out-of-state student or something like that. But that was like extremely rare. So they always tried to guess if I was like military or if I was a teacher.
It's so weird. It's like he wanted to be this powerful, important person to the US. He always talked about religion, and he kept telling people like, I wish I was religious and I wish I was charismatic. And everyone's like, whoa, usually being religious and being charismatic equals cult. That's you know what I
Wait
mean?
a minute.
Okay, not all the time, but usually you need those two things to be a cult leader. Okay, the way that I'm trying to explain it is the neighbors were saying it sounded like he wanted to have a cult.
Yeah.
It's not that he wanted to be a pastor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he for sure wanted to be like full-on cult vibes. Now, 2 red flags. When you hear your neighbor start to talk about trying to be charismatic and like lead a group, run. Or when they start developing a newfound hobby for digging holes in their backyard at night, run. Like either of those things happen, just put a for sale sign, because your house value is going to go down because someone's getting murdered next door. It's going to happen.
Why is he digging holes?
Yeah, I'm just telling you. No. This is really bad advice. But like, who's just digging holes in the backyard? Every time I hear anyone just randomly digging holes, and the neighbors are all like, oh, why is the cops, now that you brought it up and 20 people already died, I did think it was weird that you could have said something sooner. You could have said something.
My
a little
grandpa
sooner.
loves to dig holes in the backyard.
I'm calling the cops. I'm calling the cops on him. So neighbors hear through Hero's wife that they're getting a divorce, and everyone felt super sympathetic. They all really liked his wife. Hero is weird. He had an exaggeration problem, obviously, but his wife was always kind and polite. So they feel sympathetic, considering all divorces are pretty painful. And being a bit nosy, the neighbors had asked, if it's not too much to ask you, wife or ex-wife, you totally don't have to respond, why are you guys getting a divorce? His wife just smiled and responded, you'll know soon enough. Very cryptic, very creepy. So they went to Hero and they asked him about the divorce, and he explains, my wife became obsessed with religion. They're like, which one? And he's like, I'd rather not say. What? Like, that's so cryptic. It's been driving a wedge in our relationship. Hero seemed really pissed about it and almost talked about the religion as if it's like just something that would brainwash people with some shenanigans. And then he wakes up one morning and he tells all of his neighbors, I received a message from God. They're like, oh, okay. And he said that he received a mental letter, priority mail from God, and it was a love spell, verbatim. He said, I can make women fall in love with me just by uttering this love spell. All I have to do is recite the magic words, and boom, head over heels on their knees, devoted to me. And that's when he starts his fortune-telling business. And one by one, neighbors are like, well, God damn it, because maybe it's working. There would just be new wives moving in every other month, every other week. At one point, he had 11 wives living in his 3-story house. And for a brief second, the neighbors are like, what the fork is happening? And it must be the spells, because these women are too pretty for him, too young for him. But turns out the love spells were just threats. He would invite young women to come to his house for a free fortune-telling session, and the lights would be dim, the ambiance would be made, the crystal ball would be in the center of the table. Maybe there'd be some sort of enchanting background music, and he would sit in his black robe, staring into the crystal ball, and he would keep flinching, like he's having some sort of seizure. And he'd be like, no. What? It can't be. What is it? Did you see something? Is something bad gonna happen? Oh my God. In all the years I've been doing this, in all the 3 months I've been doing this, I've never seen. You, young lady, are possessed by ghosts, and they can only be exorcised through me and my wee-wee. I am a senior officer in the self-defense force in the military. What? Shh, don't speak. There are spies all around watching us. If you leave this house, you will be killed. The police cannot help you. They're in on it too. If you tell your family, their lives will now be in danger. Sounds a little bit unbelievable, but it works. He really knew how to choose his victims. So he made sure that they were all really vulnerable at the point that he even tells them about all of this. Like, most of them had friends who were lost to taking their own lives. Like, they were there because they had gone through a lot of, like, they were in the midst of that storm. And he would convince them that he was their savior. He was going to marry them legally, then divorce them in a month and protect them inside this house. In 2003 alone, he married 8 women, and all of them left their families to start living with Hiro and even changed their last name to Shibuya. Even if they divorced legally so that he could marry other women, they just stuck around like his wives. It was kind of crazy. And I just want to preface, most people are in the belief on the boat that this is some sort of cult, but that's an opinion, not a fact. And we don't know for sure because there's theories. There are some people, including Hiro himself, who is adamant that it was just a polyamorous relationship with an undertone of UFOs. You know what I mean? Like, just similar interests. And then shit starts going down. Most of Hiro's wives were lured in with his fortune-telling business. And once they moved in, they also became his free assistants that would work there if clients were coming in. And they took this job super, super seriously. They would all dress in the uniform clothing. Sometimes it would just be dresses that are the same. Other times it was traditional Chinese cheapaos. Or like the hanfus. It was very interesting. And they would greet the new client in a line like they were being met the president of the United States of America. They would be led towards the waiting room, which was usually the Hawaii room. And the wives would just like sit down to have these preliminary chat sessions with the clients, asking about, what is it that you're in here for? What's weighing you down? And they would open up to the nice woman. The client would have no idea that Hiro is on the other side next to the door with his ear pressed up, a cup to the glass, a glass cup to the door, listening to everything that they're saying. I just imagine him like eyes bugging, trying to figure out, eavesdropping so that he could calculate what they're talking about. And also when they come in so that he can like do some sort of, I don't know, magical shit. To put it simply, it was pretty much a giant scam that he was running. And if Hiro liked the way that the new clients looked, he would say things like, I see.
Yeah, dude is smooth, bro. So that's what he was doing. He'll go in there, ear hustle, try to see how much information he got and kind of like develop this feeling, or kind of like being like in the ballpark. You know what I mean? Like if she goes in there and she's like, oh, I lost my my sister or something like that. And she goes into the next room to meet Hiro. He's going to be like, I sense a lot of grieving and sadness from like a loved one. And I can see it. I can feel it in your heart. And you must do this in order for it to work. I can be that person to bring back that memory of your loved one and shower you and the longevity of love and all this other stuff. And it's just like they feed into it. And they also say all of his wives are young. So I'm trying to figure out how young are we talking? Because a lot of times the younger the person, the more gullible they are. Most of the time, it's not always the case, but majority of the time, that's pretty much like your learning stages. That's kind of like when you're kind of getting out and being on your own and you're kind of experiencing life for the first time. So you're pretty much experiencing like heartbreak and hardship and being independent and kind of like, you're just out on your own. So a lot of times, especially like when people are growing up and stuff, sometimes they miss out on that love or that attention and they kind of like seek it somewhere else. And I feel like he's creating that environment where they all can kind of like feel that deep, long lost connection or that they're hurting for. He's trying to like provide that for them. And it just kind of like, so when it comes to the point, it's kind of like they all just believe in him because without him, they would be nothing. You know what I mean? So I guess it's like pretty much promoting this cause that it's not like guaranteed, but it sounds nice from the outside. At least that's what I'm like kind of like interpreting.
You will die very, very soon. unless you live here with me.
Dang.
Or when he was feeling really lazy, he would say, if you don't have sex with me, your boyfriend's gonna drop dead. Which, like, the trauma of that, if these women were vulnerable enough and brainwashed enough to go through with it, imagine the trauma of genuinely sleeping with someone that you don't want to sleep with because you want to protect your boyfriend. What? Then in 2006, a 26-year-old woman decided to get her fortune read at Hero's house. It would be fun, she thought. But the second that she entered into the fully dark room, she just felt like something was very off. Maybe it was the aura of the fortune teller. Maybe she just felt creeped out. They talked about what was going on in her life, and then out of nowhere, he just starts screaming, if you run from here, your flesh will fall off and I will mince it up. She bolted. If someone says that to you, general rule of thumb is you don't stick around to ask, like, what do you mean by that? She bolted straight to the police, and they came to arrest Hero. They found him holed up in the 3-story house with his 11 wives. Yeah, they arrested him. He was released on a suspended sentence and went back to living with 9 out of the 11 wives. And for the next 17 years, quiet, peace. Everyone knew that they were still living in this polyamorous situation, but they're thinking they're not really hurting people, so let them do their thing. They were also kind of cute at times. They were obsessed with nature. So anytime the local communities would have these garbage hunting days where they would go out and pick garbage, they were there every single time. All freaking, like, I don't know, 10 to 12 of them. You know, they had moments where they were cute until they weren't cute. December 22nd, 2022, a young minor was at a supermarket talking to one of the wives of Hero, and she's like, you should come back to my house. My husband is a genius fortune teller. Let's call the little girl Yuri. Yuri went because she's curious, and this nice lady seemed trustworthy. She was basically held hostage for 6 hours, and it's a fever dream nightmare. She was forced to sit in a pitch black room with a TV screen on, sitting literally right in front of the TV screen. Her eyes are just tearing up because her eyes sting from watching the TV. She's being forced to watch 6 hours of creepy UFO found footage. 6 hours. And finally, the TV shuts off. The little girl feels like she's been blinded, and Hero stands up and says, you will die very soon. You will be abducted by aliens. They will tear off your skin and eat you. To avoid this painful death, you must sleep with me. This is a minor. The wife that brought her here nods her head. This is true. I had the same destiny until I married Hero.
That's insane.
They were trying to use this tactic to essay the girl. But thankfully, Yuri makes an excuse and said that she would go back home and think about it before she came back here to marry him. She ran home, immediately told her parents. They went to the police. Hero was arrested February 7th, 2023. He was 74 at this point. He did not go down without a fight. He pepper sprayed 6 police officers in the face. There was a struggle. And remember the 7 on his head that we thought was a cult symbol?
Dude.
It's just an injury from resisting arrest.
That was a scar?
That was the injury the police gave him while he was pepper spraying them.
Bro.
They took him down. It was a scar.
Bro,
Whooped
it's
his ass.
so creepy.
So creepy. Hero denied all the charges, and there is no set trial date as of now. I mean, he could face anywhere between 3 to 20 years in prison.
Wow.
And because there hasn't been a trial yet, nobody knows what the fuck was going on in that house. People did find a lot of the police found a lot of objects of interest after his arrest. So they found a few books on hypnotism and aliens. He had an obsession with anything American, UFOs, aliens. Like, that's very American.
UFOs American?
I feel like it's very fucking American. You know what I mean?
Like it, yeah.
I feel like the idea of extraterrestrial beings is pretty American. Like, the only ever die-hard UFO people I've ever met, and I'm not saying aliens are not out there or that UFOs are fake, right? But like all the die-hard ones, American. For sure. I've never seen a Hanguk person. I've never seen a Korean person like, let me tell you, come into my room. And then I just like walk into their room and there's like pictures of UFOs. You know what I mean? I've never seen that.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Koreans not very into aliens?
Koreans have a very like I would say majority Koreans have a very strong what can I do about it if there are attitude. Yeah, so I imagine even if some of them believe in aliens, it's like what do you want me to do about it? I can't even get a fucking raise right now. Like, you think I can handle the concept of aliens? Like, let's talk about it when they start invading. Yeah, it's very interesting. He also had a book called I Want to Be a Hypnotist, which, side note, after this case blew up, the book advertised itself as the book that Hero used to brainwash his wives. And a lot of men were eating this up. Men were buying up this book. It was getting sold out, and they started adding these warning labels to their book that said abuse strictly prohibited. Like, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. You're trying to market it to these toxic men who want to have 25 wives cater to their every women need. Most alarming thing that they found in his house, though, was tear gas, a high-intensity stun gun, and formalin, which is basically formaldehyde and is used to preserve things like dead bodies. So
are all the wives still stuck by him? Like,
a good chunk of them, yes. Yeah.
Crazy.
Now, we still don't know why, though, right? There are some theories. It's pretty widely accepted that Hero's wives have been brainwashed by him. One time when one of the wives' parents came to beg her to come back home with them, she sprayed them with bear spray. And like, again, we've talked about cases like this before. That takes a level of brainwashing.
It does.
You don't just pepper spray your parents for being concerned.
That's why.
And then based on the books that he had about hypnotism and mind control, it just seemed like he had an interest in trying to brainwash these people. He talked about how he wanted to be charismatic, like religious leaders. All of that. It's very interesting. Now, side note, I do want to make a little disclaimer. There's nothing wrong with being polyamorous. Like, technically, there's nothing wrong with this setup as long as it's consensual and of age. Like, there's no reason to judge it. But if you're manipulating, scaring, and threatening people into marrying you, that's like not the same thing. That's not it. That's abuse. He also only targeted vulnerable women, and he gave them this false hope that he was their savior. A Japanese psychologist said a lot of cults will use the second coming, or they'll use UFOs and aliens as a really useful tactic to brainwash people, because it's very easy to manipulate people with it, because these threats are very unknown. There's not a distinct date. There's not a distinct, academic study that was done on something like this. So it makes the victim more confused, and you can kind of create whatever narrative you want. Then there's the theory that Hiro himself pushes, which is that the women wanted to stay because they liked him. He said that they just all liked each other. He said, they must have seen something in me. I mean, they always came back and said they were comfortable, so there must be something good in me. Neighbors kind of agreed and said, the wives never looked unhappy or scared. Like, if they thought that they were going to be killed by UFOs, maybe they'd look a little scared. But they didn't look scared. One psychologist said that they could have easily trauma bonded and become their own community that found comfort in each other. So it's less about Hiro and more about the community. But I don't know. Hiro claims to this day that it's a mixture of love and his magical spells. He said all he did was recite the spells given by God, and women gathered around him, and that's how he had 11 wives. And as for the accusation that he was terrifying the clients by saying that you will be skinned and ground up like pork unless you have sex with me, he just said, I wasn't threatening them. I just said whatever had appeared to me in my dreams. And I admit sometimes I get carried away telling fortunes. What's crazy is there's actually a lot of men in Japan that genuinely love him. They think he's an icon. They want to be the next hero. They think this is a dream. They commented, this is the man who finally obtained a real-life harem. What a guy. A lot of guys in Japan said they wanted to learn love spells to create their own harems. Like, he's an idol to a group of people, which is crazy. This is a 74-year-old that tried to essay a minor. Like, that's not an idol. I genuinely didn't know what I was getting into, and I'm sorry that I had to spring this up on you, but I had to, okay? I saw this picture, I went down the rabbit hole, and I was like, there's no way I'm reading what I'm reading right now. I was 100% certain. Cult or gang. Definitely looked kind of like a gang. Like some sort of crime syndicate.
I thought he was trying to become like this weird character.
Yes, like the people that get the crazy plastic surgery.
Right. Like he's like trying to be creepy, but he just turned out to be creepy.
Yeah, he just turned out to genuinely. Yeah, and the fact that 7, such a clean-cut 7, is a injury from the police officers. Bro, just makes this whole thing so much more confusing and weird. I don't know how to feel about it. What are your thoughts? Do you think this was a cult? Do you think it was love? Beats me. Let me know in the comments.
I don't know what this was. All I know is, dude, besides the minor, he's like a Japanese Hugh Hefner, a nefarious Hugh Hefner. That's what I would call him. I don't know. I just feel like people like him and people like Charles Manson and stuff like that, I just think they've mastered the ability to manipulate people. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't think that's true or not. I don't know. These days, the world is getting stranger and stranger. So when people say things, I used to be like, yeah, shut up, you sound weird, get out of here. But now I'm just kind of like, I don't know. You know, maybe he did hear something. Maybe he didn't say something. I mean, I don't know what's the difference between some people be like, oh, I meditate and I heard this and I see this, versus someone that says, oh, God said something to me and I follow what they said to me. I don't see a difference, me personally. If you're hearing something from the good, I think you also can hear something from, you know, like on the evil side as well. So it's kind of like, who's telling the truth at the end of the day? I don't know. I used to call people crazy all the time, but now I just listen and kind of be like, you know, what if he did see that or say that or something like that? But the minor, I don't agree with. That's not acceptable. I don't know, man. Some people read books. They have books like the 48 Laws of Power, and they have all these other like psychology and manipulation type books and hypnosis type books. I mean, if people are writing it, obviously something or some part of it works. You know what I mean? If you're into that kind of thing, you know, do your thing. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't know what he said to him. I just don't understand how UFOs and your skin falling off can trick you into marrying somebody. Like, I don't even see, like, I don't know. Certain things just work for certain people. I don't see myself going out there and being like, oh, well, if you don't marry me and you don't do this with me, then your boyfriend and you are not going to be able to get married and all this other stuff. They're like, oh my God, you're right. Like, you have to be some type of gullible. Like, you don't know. You just have to be going through something to be open to anything and everything. Like, that's the only way I can see it. You have to be going through something to start believing stuff like this. Or maybe it's just the bond aspect of it. Like she said, like a trauma bonding. You have a group of people that was going through the same things. And at the end of the day, it's just like you all kind of like got brought together and you're happy to be here. And then you guys look at him like, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be this happy. We owe that to him. You know what I mean? But who knows? Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. This video is by Stephanie So. So if you guys haven't already, make sure you swoop down that description box. Click on a link, go watch this video in entirety because I was pausing, stopping, and talking through the whole thing. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Zems, and welcome to the Crow's Nest. But again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.